Welcome to another edition of the DHN Crypto Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Wade Teamer. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. You know, football season has kicked off. So for me, things were exciting. Spartans came out on top. Lions and Wolverines, not so much. But this isn't the sports channel. This is the crypto channel. And we have a jam-packed episode for you guys. A whole bunch broke out over the weekend, and I can't wait to break it all down to you. Starting with the creator and founder of the Tempo blockchain, Stripe's new blockchain venture. Well, he went on the Bankless podcast and he made some comments about the real purpose of this blockchain. Come to find out, it's not exclusively Stripes. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down, guys. And we also have to get into this. Huge shout out to HBAR Tata for bringing this to the surface. So apparently, over the summertime, ladies and gentlemen, between May and September, we're in September now. You guys know what I'm talking about. But Hedera, Ripple, Stellar, and Aptos, as well as a tech consulting firm, Meansot, met with the OMFIF, which is essentially an intellectual body tied to traditional banking that has been studying and exploring digital assets for almost a decade now. They've had 6 private meetings with regulators and commercial banks to explore how public chains can power global finance. Guys, we need to break this down because the OMFIF is a very powerful organization that is spearheaded by some very powerful people. And it is very significant that Hedera, Ripple, Stellar, and Aptos were brought into these discussions. So we're going to break it down. And we also have to dive into this as well. The Wyoming Stable Token Commission published the results of their candidate blockchain evaluations. And I think it is very revealing, the information that they got here in regards to both the chains that made it and the ones that didn't make it. I got some pretty interesting insights around that. And we got so much more in the show, guys. Some stuff from the world of Web3. I'm going to touch on a little bit of gaming. Solana Seeker just dropped, so I got some comments on that, guys. We got a whole lot of fun to have this afternoon. But before we get deep into it, we are doing this keyword a day campaign for the next 150 days, guys. Every time I do a show, I'm going to bring a particular keyword from the blockchain space. I'm going to share with you and break it down to you. So that way, every time we meet, we have even more information than what we had when we started. Now, the word for this episode is cold wallet. Now, a cold wallet is a cryptocurrency wallet that is not connected to the internet, offering maximum security against online threats. So, you may have also heard this referred to as cold storage, a cold storage crypto wallet. One of the affiliates of this channel, SafePal, actually specializes in that technology. So, today's word, cold wallet. Again, a cryptocurrency wallet that is not connected to the internet, offering maximum security against online threats. Now, a cold storage wallet is best for long-term storage of your crypto, and there is a bit of a learning curve. I got some content on the channel that teaches you how to navigate cold wallets, but it's best to have an understanding of the core terms to get you where you need to go. That is why I put together the D150, guys, and you can pick this up at our website, digitalhustlenetwork.net/products. You can see prices super affordable, guys. With the price of everything else going up, like I said before, there's no need for me to upcharge education. It just ain't right. So with that, guys, let's get into the show. We're going to start with these comments from Tempo Blockchain's founder. He went on the Bankless podcast. I'm going to see his name was here, yes. Zach Abrams. That name rings a bell. Similar name to the guy Abrams over there who works for Render. That's what that made me ring a bell. But he goes on the Bankless podcast, man, and he shares his thoughts about the Tempo blockchain. Now, the clip itself is about 3 minutes, 15 seconds. We won't play the whole thing. We really don't have to get the impression that I'm looking to break down with you. So let me pull this up here and let's dive in. Again, this is from the Bankless podcast. pretty good podcast, bringing in industry figures, guys like that.
Problems. And so the way we came into this is that we needed to build the infrastructure that solved our unique pain points. We weren't focused on, and we still aren't focused on trading. We just want something that's super high throughput, that has like some core functionality that's important for payments companies, and has the deliverability that everyone is looking for if they're going to run their bank, if they're going to pay all their customers, if they're going to run payroll on top of this rail. And so for us, building and investing in Tempo became super important. But just to be very clear about Tempo is not like a Stripe blockchain. We also did not believe that these like private corporate blockchains would be successful. Because
wait a second here. When I was going over this clip and he made an emphasis on the fact that this is not Stripe's blockchain, blew my mind. Because much like he's about to go into now, these corporate chains are causing a stir in the crypto community. Nobody knows which way is up and down. Nobody knows if this is a threat or if this is a great thing. Personally, I feel like it validates our ideas and principles. But I can understand why some people would fear these corporate networks. Because as he's about to go into, these corporate chains have a particular advantage that most public networks don't have.
As people aren't going to want to build on someone else's blockchain. They want to build on like shared infrastructure that they believe is going to be good for everyone. It's the same reason that the same skepticism we have about everyone building on someone else's stablecoin.
Right.
You don't want to subordinate your interests to those of some other, economically interested party. And so that's why Tempo is actually a Stripe is a major contributor to Tempo. Bridge is a major contributor and collaborator on Tempo. But Tempo is an independent entity, and a neutral blockchain built outside of Stripe.
So it's not exactly a Stripe blockchain. And notice how he mentioned that Bridge was a major collaborator. Now, we know Bridge to be the Stripe company. We also know Bridge is the company that has embedded networks like Solana, Polygon, Ethereum, Avalanche, and Stellar into their fiat to crypto protocol. So with that knowledge, it really pulled me in, guys, because I want to tell you a bit of a story that is related to this. He brought up PayPal. If PayPal wanted to use Tempo, they could use Tempo. It's very interesting. I was watching a documentary about the formation of PayPal Mafia, all of that. And in the documentary, they're going over how eBay and PayPal's relationship formed. PayPal offered eBay a payment service, which was PayPal's proprietary technology. eBay said, okay, cool, we'll bring you in. We already have our own payments providers, but we'll give you a shot. No one at eBay thought PayPal would make it through the year, but by the end of the year, PayPal was doing 80% of eBay's volume. They were doing all of their transactions. That story makes me think of a lot of the relationships and the connections and the protocols that are being built in the crypto space. They're not necessarily looking to compete with each other. It's really a situation where I have something of value that I think can make your value even more valuable. That is where we are. And I love to see that. Now, this really made me want to dig deeper into Tempo. But first, let me show you the Bridge and Stellar connection. All right. Supported blockchains and fiat rails. You can see Arbitrum, AVAX, Base, which is making some rounds. We got a pretty interesting segment later on in the show. Netflix, Black Mirror, and Base. That's pretty cool. But you can see here, USDC, Stellar, supported destinations for USDC across all chains. So what this means is if someone wants to move a stable coin from Arbitrum, Avalanche, Base, ETH, etc., they can move USDC, EuroC, USDB, which is Bridge's stablecoin, private stablecoin, PYUSD from ETH to Stellar, from Solana to Stellar, so forth and so on. So Bridge, being the primary collaborator for the Tempo blockchain, the primary builder, if you will, directly puts Stellar in the crosshairs. Now, Tempo is a neutral blockchain. I understand that. But anyone who can build will build. So let's take a look at Tempo's website. First and foremost, fire. All right? Fire. Look at it. Watch how it moves as I move the thing. So lots of information on this website, guys. And another cool feature, when you go to the website, it may very well be a different color. I'm on my desktop now and it's blue, but on my laptop, it was brown. It was the coolest thing in the world. Anyway, transform how your business moves money. On their website, very plain, very clear, they go into for one, the use cases. And I think that is what gives us the potential here, the technical features. So they cover remittances, global payments, microtransactions, embedded finance. That means that this Tempo blockchain, ISO 20022 compatible already. Out the jump. Out the box, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? They built it. And then take note, too, of tokenized deposits. Now, we stumbled upon tokenized deposits a couple weeks ago, and I made the connection to certificates of deposit. I wanted to ask the more experienced financial viewers of the channel if the term collateral, tokenized collateral, would be the proper way to define that. Let me know down in the comments. But I do understand tokenized deposits, they're like CDs, and that is an increasing trend on blockchain. Technical features include fee flexibility, the ability to pay transactions in any stable coin. That is going to be a game changer, folks, because like you said, Tempo is open. So this means that they also do stablecoin interoperability, which is swaps between stablecoins, including custom issued stablecoins. That's very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Batch transfers, block lists, allow lists, and then, of course, memo fields speed up reconciliation with off-chain transactions by adding context that is compatible with ISO 20022. Okay, dos. This is impressive. That's all I can say, guys. And then they wrap it up here down at the bottom under frequently asked questions. Who can build on Tempo? Neutral, permissionless blockchain, open for anyone to build on. They're currently collaborating with global partners to test various use cases, from cross-border payments, business to business payments, remittances, and e-commerce, folks. And when you go to their the main page, right at the top here, they also mention how certain companies are already testing. Yes. Optimized for real-world flows. Tempo was started by Stripe and Paradigm with design input from Anthropic, AI company, Coupang, Deutsche Bank, DoorDash. Wouldn't surprise me if DoorDash integrated stablecoins. Because, all right, with my son being autistic, sometimes we have to get his milk from places where we can't readily get to. DoorDash has been a godsend for that. All right. I am a faithful BJ's wholesale customer because of that. But I say that to say I spend a lot of time on the DoorDash app, and I can see where a DoorDash branded stable coin, if they could tip their drivers in their own currency that comes instantly, DoorDash could be entering a whole new game, y'all. Whole new game. But we also got names like Mercury, Nubank, Warren Buffett's Nubank, OpenAI, Revolut, Shopify, Standard Chartered, Visa, and more. This shows us, folks, that, like I said, anyone who can build will build. And it now appears that the most powerful corporations in the world have studied blockchain long enough. They figured it out. Now they got the capability to just drop them whenever they please and collaborate on them. This Tempo blockchain is an open source network that is supported by the top corporations in the United States and parts of the world. So I understand the fear from other networks. I do understand it. But what stands out to me the most is Stellar's potential in this entire ecosystem. Because when you take a second look at the names that are involved, you'll also see some PayFi ecosystem players. Stripe, PayPal, the interoperability of all the stable coins. Bridge is also in the PayFi ecosystem, as well as Visa. So, nothing is concrete. I will say that. I'll admit that right now. But when you look at the pieces, the puzzle looks amazing. It truly looks amazing, in my opinion, guys. But let's move on and talk about this Wyoming stable token candidate blockchain list, ladies and gentlemen. We now know that, of course, yes, Hedera was added as another blockchain that supports the FRNT stable token, first state issued stable coin out of Wyoming. But as I'm looking through this over the weekend, meditating on it, digesting it, a number of things stood out to me. Okay, so let's talk about the chains that made the cut first. We got Aptos, Arbitrum, AVAX, Base, Ethereum, HBAR, Inc., which is Kraken's network, Optimism, Polygon, Say, Sol, Sui, and Stellar. All passed the WST evaluation process. But even in that, there were some concerns across those networks as well. Like, for example, they pointed out regulatory risk for Aptos, Arbitrum, Polygon, Base, Ethereum, and Avalanche, which I found to be, of course, very interesting. To our knowledge, we know Ethereum doesn't have any regulatory issues on the surface. Networks like Aptos, they point out limited maturity and weak regulatory compliance. Not sure where they're getting that from, but they mention it quite frankly in other networks. So when I dug into this, I told myself maybe it's the diversity in these ecosystems, meaning because they serve so many different avenues and channels, gaming, payments, NFTs, not all parts of their offerings have been regulated. And with that logic, it makes sense. And we can double down because when you take a look at Immutable X, which I was shocked to even see they made the cut, right? They categorized Immutable X, it failed, but it's NFT focused, low generality. That's very key because the rest of these networks, you can call them general use or all purpose blockchains. They cover many different sectors. IMX was NFT focused, low generality, NFT layer 2 advantage, limited for stablecoin issuance. So in those details, it showed me that for one, they prefer general purpose blockchains, blockchains with multiple uses. However, those particular blockchains have to have high TVL as well as a large user base because at the same time, while they pointed out those regulatory challenges, they also amplified or promoted the networks with high TVL and large user bases like Aptos, Solana, and Ethereum, of course, with the largest user base. Optimism, they mentioned for ecosystem growth. Polygon, another one, large ecosystem, strong TVL. So it's obvious when they went into this, they were looking at networks with large ecosystem, large user base, and sustained high levels of value locked up in the network. So that makes a lot of sense that they would take that route. But let's talk a little bit about why the networks who didn't make the cut, why they didn't make that cut. And to start, Algorand, that was a bit of a shock here. They describe it, the benefits and concerns, technical potential, but lacks regulatory suitability. I can't find where they're getting that from. But at the same time, in all of these regulatory discussions, one asset that is absent is Algorand. They obviously know something that, we can't get access to right away. Cardano, strong research base, limited adoption and compliance. Limited adoption. I'm pretty sure a lot of ADA holders do not like Wyoming now. And to that point, I thought Charles was plugged in Wyoming. I thought he was. The drama, ladies and gentlemen. EOS, public chain advantage, but past governance and security concerns. That's what led to its fail. Now, I know everyone wants to really know about this particular number here. Why Ripple and XRP failed. They highlighted the benefit, cross-border payment strength, but the biggest concern was SEC legal disputes. Now, to my knowledge and our knowledge, we know the case is over. But you also have to keep in mind that the people who put this criteria together, they obviously have deeper levels of education than the normal crypto investor. That prompted me to look back into the results of the case. And although, yes, it has come to a conclusion, Ripple still has to pay $125 million in fines. Technically, Ripple is on probation. And if they do anything wrong, it's back to the bear market for you guys. All right? Back to the bear. So I would assume that is the reason why they are cautious and wouldn't want to drop a large-scale stablecoin infrastructure or a large-scale stablecoin on a network that could still at any point in the future be pulled back into the depths of, regulatory obscurity. So I can understand that. But remember, they do recognize the cross-border payment strength, much like they did with Stellar, cross-border payment strength, but limited DeFi expansion. So let me tell you this, Wyoming, SOAR ban is going to fix that. Okay. Things weren't live yet when you guys are probably evaluating, but SOAR ban is coming. And in addition to that, the strength in cross-border payments, that's highlighting the anchor network for Stellar, their massive global network of on and off ramps. And you can also see Stellar got a score as well. I believe that places them in the top 5 or 6 of all the chains that were chosen. So for stablecoins, XLM is the perfect network. This can't be argued at this point, in my opinion. But we also know that in Q3, later on this year, they will make an announcement in regards to which of these chains that passed will be the next to support FRNT. So this will be big for the space. It also makes me think of the maturity, where we are in the space in terms of maturity of these networks. This reminds me of Kaiko's blockchain rating system, blockchain maturity system. I'll just say this. I expect other states to follow Wyoming's blueprint. And if not other states, other companies for sure. But with that, guys, we're going to take a break right here. When we come back, though, we're going to dive into those 6 private meetings held by the OMFIF that aims to bring blockchain networks closer to traditional finance. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, I got a quick message for you. Let's say you're looking to buy some crypto, like the ones mentioned in this video. Consider using our crypto exchange partner, Uphold. With Uphold, you get access to more than 200 crypto assets through its simple-to-use trading platform. Uphold has been around more than a decade, so it is a name you can trust. With over $2 billion in reserves and $44 billion in trading volume, I've yet to lose a trade on Uphold. To the more experienced investor out there, Uphold also has a line of precious metals and national currencies for more diversification. For me, I'm having fun using Uphold's baskets tool. Uphold lets us set aside a certain amount of money to invest in different sectors of crypto. With one click, you can diversify into the big three, meme coins, or the financial assets like Hedera, Stellar, and XTC. But listen, crypto assets are very volatile, and it is always best to manage your risk and do your own research before using any platform. I recommend Uphold because before I was an affiliate, I was and still am a user. So if you use the link below, it helps support the channel. I want to thank you in advance.
All right, welcome back. So the OMFIF over the summer held 6 private meetings with public blockchains, Hedera, Stellar, Ripple, and Aptos, in an effort to figure out how these public networks can be further embedded into traditional finance. Once again, we got to shout out HBAR Tata for bringing this to the surface. He captured a quote from the OMFIF. They state, "We are at a tipping point for the integration of blockchain into the traditional financial system. The findings of these meetings will debut at the Singapore FinTech Festival, which, according to my knowledge, will be November, and we'll figure out what they were talking about." Now, I know y'all been at work all day, so y'all like, wait, what in the world is an OMFIF? Simply put, guys, this is a working group, a think tank, supported by the biggest players in the world of finance. And this isn't just like me just saying that to be saying that. All you have to do is go to the OMFIF team and you'll discover who's in charge here. That's the corporate team. There's a main guy here, Mark Sobel. All right? Because the OMFIF, global think tank, the brightest financial minds from all over the world participate in this particular group. They hold conferences, they do meetings, things of that nature. When it comes to the U.S. side of things, there's 2 particular people we need to know about. Patricia Haas-Cleveland, U.S. President, and Mark Sobel, U.S. Chair. Now, Mark Sobel used to be a former U.S. Treasury official. He also worked with the Financial Stability Board between 2000 and 2015. Now, why is that important? Well, we know the Financial Stability Board as being the body that is responsible for this rush into the stablecoin world, or the ushering of stablecoins into traditional financial worlds. I like to call it global stablecoin arrangements. So it's not more so a product, a partnership. It's the people behind this particular story that make it impactful. When you take a minute and dig through the OMFIF website, they have a heap ton of content, videos, reports, PDFs that will definitely give you the best impression of the current global financial landscape from the people building it out. These are not just government officials, business owners. They're running banks, commercial banks, large financial institutions, nonprofits, NGOs. It's again the people here. That's what matters with this story. And the name should also ring a bell as well. We're talking about the Digital Monetary Institute. They first landed on my radar all the way back in 2020, 2021. As a matter of fact, it was Algorand who participated in a paper alongside Citigroup and Visa discussing the feasibility of blockchain in the traditional financial world. This was 2021 when I discovered it. The paper was published in 2020 though. So guys, I know a lot of people are new to the crypto space. I'm going to tell you something. a lot of the things that were established in 2020, 2021, 2022 even, when I first got in this space, now support the market. One of them being this move towards stablecoins. I'm going to keep repeating this till I'm blue in the face, ladies and gentlemen. This stablecoin thing was planned. And I don't often say that about things, but I've researched enough and watched long enough to see it play out. They coordinated this. So what that all means is where we see these networks arise, it's significant. Digital Monetary Institute, let's head back over to the terminal here. They're holding a summit next year in May. Something about the month of May. But I want to share with you who the prime partners are. Gold member partners, Oracle, MasterCard, Citi. MasterCard and Citi have done numerous things this year alone in the world of blockchain. Citi got tokenized deposits, trade finance, their own stablecoin in the works. And if we take a look at the silver sponsors, Swift, Connexus, Franklin Templeton, MTech. Caramel Cadet is making a push, man. I'm seeing MTech in a lot more places. And then we also, you can see here, have Stellar and Binance. So what could they possibly be contributing to this year's event? Well, with it being in May, we don't have a lot of details. But I'll tell you this again. With this particular update, it's not the product, it's not the partnership, it's the people. The people that attend this summit are movers and shakers in their respective industries. And if they have their eyes on blockchain, then you know you in the right place by having your eyes on blockchain and crypto. So this one is big, and we're going to have to wait to see what comes from it. So with that, though, I'm still excited. I'll tell you that much. But let's change tones a bit, guys. We've been talking a lot of finance, a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of DLT, a lot of world-changing information. But let's lighten the tone a little bit, guys. Over the weekend, Atlanta Falcons star wide receiver Drake London attended his alma mater, USC, to watch them roll on Georgia Southern. But these early games, week 1 and 2, man, football season, especially in college football, they're not really that big. The exception of what Oklahoma did to the Wolverines this weekend, but it's either here nor there. What's important about this, guys, is that you can see the type of shirt he's got. I didn't even know they made this shirt, but this is cool. Satoshi, what's in your wallet? Right? This just goes to show, though, just how much Bitcoin is penetrating pop culture, especially with the term Satoshi. That's not a common term. You have to at least read one paragraph of the white paper to know what a Satoshi is. And if you know how it works, and if you understand what it means in relation to a Bitcoin, you've read a few more paragraphs. I'm making light of it, but guys, you really be surprised at how many people will put their entire life savings into these tokens and not read one white paper. So not only does this show us that the industry is growing, it's becoming more popular, and don't get it twisted. Just because this is a Bitcoin related t-shirt does not mean that he hasn't dabbled in Ethereum. He ain't been on Twitter once or twice and somebody sent him an XRP related post. Not to mention Solana, and USC is a Big Ten school. Big Ten PayPal. Big Ten PayPal Stellar. Don't get me started. To that point, though, okay, USC is no stranger to crypto. As a matter of fact, going into this year, there is a kid on their roster, Matai Tagoa, who signed a historic NIL deal with Jack Mallers' Strike, the Bitcoin payments application. He's going to be getting part of his earnings in Bitcoin. So USC is no stranger at all to the crypto movement. I just find this to be very cool, though. Shout out to Drake London, man. He actually put up pretty decent numbers, 8 receptions, 55 yards, but they lost to Baker Mayfield and the Bucks in their season opener. It's Baker, make him. He gonna make him. So can't do nothing about that. Let's jump forward, guys, though. Talk a little bit more Web3 gaming. We have Netflix's Black Mirror. All right. They have dived headfirst. Dived, you know what I'm getting at, into the world of Web3. Black Mirror token launch is set for today, September 8th, on the Base network. So, yeah, we got a TGE happening right now. We got a token generation event happening on Base. I will tell you, as a U.S. crypto investor, we can't touch these. So all we can do is sit back and bark at it. We can just watch it walk past the gate. But we can't do nothing because we got that leash on us. Okay, we got that leash on us. The adoption, though, is still worth digging into. So let's get the details here. September 8th, token generation event will take place on Base. Coinbase's Ethereum Layer 2, marking the most ambitious Web3 step yet for the Netflix series known for its commentary on technology and society. Yeah, Black Mirror, if you've watched it, you know the series is deep with sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, dystopian overtones, right? So if you're a fan of that thing, you can definitely see the parallels between the world of Black Mirror and blockchain and Web3. So I get that. The company that's helping build this, it's a number of companies, but the key one is Core Protocol. We'll get deeper into them in just a second, but I want to share with you who else is involved here. Solana, Avalanche, Republic, and Animoca Brands. Animoca Brands is important because they just bought the Sandbox. You remember the Sandbox? During the Metaverse Mania, Decentraland, Gala Games, Sandbox, they were leading the charge. Since then, they have all dramatically fallen off. But Animoca Brands is a very popular company coming out of Asia that handles a boatload of IP. Animoca has decided to pick up Sandbox, and they're going to basically make it their network. That's important because Animoca, like I said, has its hands in some of the most popular IPs from around the world. And they're starting to creep into the United States. So when I saw Animoca backing this, I knew it was serious. Then I got deeper and took a look at the KOR protocol. Let's hop over to this website, guys, because this KOR protocol, and unfortunately, there is no token. But what they specialize is tokenized IP on-chain. On-chain IP. When I cover blockchain gaming, I always bring this up. That the gaming side, it's already been figured out. And in most cases, those pretty graphics you're seeing, of course that's not running on a blockchain. There's a Web2 gaming studio that is supporting that end of the equation. That's fine. It's blockchain that comes in and improves the functionality of the assets within the game. It makes the in-game world tangible. So when it comes to what's next for it, we've already established the technical element, how to onboard gamers, how to use blockchain to increase the value of digital assets. We figured that out. The next thing we need to do is generate IP, start bringing in recognizable IP characters, franchises to the blockchain. So that way now we can get a mainstream audience to start seeing the technical capabilities that have already been established. The onboarding, the digital asset ownership, the NFTs, the IDs, all of those things. So that is why this core protocol is the biggest piece to this particular Black Mirror launch. Now, again, there's no token for core protocol. So if you want to benefit off of a move like this, you would honestly take a position with Stellar, take a position in Avalanche, because they seem to be the only two networks supporting this type of activity. Maybe down the road, Core will launch a token. I do know, obviously, with this being the token generation event, if you are outside the US and you're able to get on base, you can, hop into the token itself. But I will warn you, typically in these setups, if the token is the main currency to exchange in-game assets or access particular things, there will always be sale pressure on that token. So just keep that in mind. That is why I suggest the smarter play would be to just hold some Solana or Avalanche, as that is the core network that is making all of these things possible. Something else very impressive that stood out to me was Niantic is a launch partner for the core protocol as well as Black Mirror. Niantic is the company behind Pokemon Go, which seems to be making a resurgence all of a sudden, especially in blockchain. People are taking old Pokemon cards and tokenizing them. Wait until Nintendo or Game Freak find out y'all doing that. It ain't gonna be pretty. Okay? Do y'all not remember what happened to Pal World? Yeah, Pokemon did not play with them. Okay? You can't even find that game anymore. So, outside of that, to see names like Niantic involved with this is definitely a huge win. So, again, shout out to Juice Gaming News. You guys are slowly becoming my favorite new crypto publication. Truly becoming my favorite crypto publication. So, guys, we're going to take one more break here. When we get back, we are going to dive into a little more Solana. We got to talk to Seeker, as well as the AI race for Stellar. I think it just started. Stay tuned. Yep. Good Safe Pal ad in there for y'all. So that ties into our keyword of the day. That is a cold storage wallet. And if you go to our website, digitalnetwork.net/deals, there's an entire write-up giving you more information on Safe Pal specifically. So, excuse me. Let's finish out this show, guys, and talk a little Solana Mobile. It is apparently Seeker season, and early reviews for the Solana Seeker have come out. Nothing, groundbreaking here, but Seeker was more so designed to be an improvement on Saga. And that's exactly what they did. And now that they've done that, I have a deeper understanding of Solana's mobile division. Now, we have Emmett here, GM of Solana Mobile. He was on Raul Paul's Real Vision podcast, and they were kind of going over, well, not kind of, they were going over the inspiration behind Seeker. Let's take a listen.
What was the coolest thing that you built on this? You went, you know what, that's pretty good. I'm quite proud of this.
Seed Vault Wallet is definitely the thing that I'm most proud of. So with Saga, we launched Seed Vault, which was an underlying technology. It was more of a protocol than a product. It provided a more secure way to store keys. With this phone, with Seeker, we took that a step further and we built Seed Vault Wallet. And our prompt in our heads the whole time was, Seed Vault on Saga was good, but it was too cumbersome. What if we made the Apple Pay equivalent for crypto, where connecting to apps and signing transactions felt like Apple Pay? What would that look like? And that was the prompt. And now I have a phone in hand and I can connect to an app and trade and stake. And it is like Apple Pay. I get a bottom sheet. I see the transaction. I double tap my power button. It takes my biometrics and the transaction is signed.
That right there. Cold wallets now have a lot of work to do, since we were talking about that. But this definitely changes the game for cold wallets and cold storage. On one hand, cold storage, with it supposed to be separated from the internet, it does raise concerns about the security of Seeker's, we'll say it, in-house wallet. But on the other hand, the Solana blockchain is the only blockchain, to my knowledge, with physical hardware. Okay? Yeah, people talk about how Bitcoin isn't owned by anybody, doesn't have a Twitter account, doesn't have a CEO, so forth and so on. But you still need an Apple, Google, TCL, Samsung, whatever brand you got, mobile device in most cases to access it, or a computer, Samsung, Microsoft, Apple, to access it. Solana is changing the game by being the network with its own hardware. Imagine, if you will, because I don't think a network like Ethereum or Avalanche with similar ecosystems, being the dApps, memes, layer 2s, NFTs, so forth and so on, I don't think they could do this because they're already stretched to the limit, which is possible in blockchain. Just take a look at Algorand's ecosystem, respectfully. But imagine if Ethereum came out with its own computer, its own desktop tower that had Ethereum as the operating system, or a laptop or a tablet that ran on Ethereum. Better example, Immutable X. What if they created a handheld that housed all of their games? That is what we're looking at here. And I also believe that that will be maybe 4 to 5 years from now. That'll be the next leg up for this industry, the hardware race. Gaming, they're already messing around with it. Players like Sui and their Sui Playtron 0x1. Reviews on that aren't sensational, but was it intended to be? What that showed is hardware can support blockchain independently. We're already accessing blockchain from our computers anyway. When we enter the hardware era for blockchain, boy, them prices are going to be out of control. Out of control. But here's a snapshot of the Solana mobile dApp ecosystem. And I get a lot of conclusions when I look at this, guys. You can see, for one, Helium Mobile comes built into the device. That's one example of a win-win situation that Solana is creating with this phone. Helium Mobile comes built in. So that means that anyone who buys a Seeker doesn't have to go to your traditional Metro, AT&T, Sprint phone carriers, Verizon. They don't have to go to those. They already have one built in. And Helium's mobile phone rates are cheap, and they're partnered with T-Mobile. So they're using T-Mobile's towers. On top of that, natively runs Brave browser, which used to pay you out in Brave token rewards. Not sure if they still do it, but if they do, now you got an income generating device. Let's keep going here. Connects to DPIN applications, which will absolutely activate the DPIN space. That is what was needed. Prior to now, DPIN was just all speculation. But what they were trying to develop were the devices to create the infrastructure. Seeker does that as well. Then we have Audius Music, shout out to Audius, and Contentos.tv. This is I wouldn't give them YouTube comp, but I'll definitely give them a Rumble comp. Okay, Contentos TV is the Rumble for blockchain. It was a asset that I thought originally ran on Cardano, but I discovered Contentos a few years ago. Very cheap asset. Haven't checked the price in forever, but I do remember the use case. They were the first ones that were really trying to tap streaming, live broadcast on blockchain. Also partnered with Theta Network, if I'm not mistaken. There's also growing variety of games you can see here, which kind of like the point I made about Immutable, if they were to get into the hardware side, now Solana has a hardware device to house all of their Web3 games, giving you direct access. So not only does the Seeker give Solana the hardware and create a direct-to-consumer route for their builders, but it also gives you a direct connection to DeFi, staking, gaming, AI, content and streaming. It's the hardware, folks. It is the hardware. And I believe that the networks who can blur the lines between digital and physical are going to be the ones that win. And Solana is doing that. They really are. But let's wrap up the show, guys, and finish out with the AI race on Stellar. Has the AI race for Stellar begun? Well, this week, 2 AI-related applications stumbled upon my radar in relation to Stellar. The first being StellarPad AI, and empowering the power of Stellar blockchain by igniting the next generation of top-tier projects. So I read through the white paper, looked through the website. To summarize it, this will be an AI-powered launchpad for the Stellar network. So much like you see launchpads on Hedera, XDC, Flare, let's see, Ethereum has a boatload of them. Launchpad is actually one of the terms that we will be covering from the D150. Another reason to pick that up. But a launchpad is simply a decentralized way for builders to launch a token on a particular network. That launchpad is responsible for providing that network and that token with the liquidity and the resources to get their product to the people. We didn't have that on Stellar up until now. Just great. And it is also another sign that Stellar-based assets are starting to get the recognition that they deserve. A couple weeks ago, Tangent Wallet made it known that they will support Stellar-based assets like Velo, Stronghold, and there was one more. Oh, the Aqua token, which is the liquidity, the Aqua Finance token. So that, like I said, very great sign. When it comes to this particular launchpad here, the AI vetting engine, which identifies and ranks high potential projects based on credibility, innovation, tokenomics, and roadmap execution, will filter out the noise and feature only quality. So that is something that I think could spread throughout the entire Stellar network. An AI vetting engine. If StellarPad AI itself doesn't go global, doesn't go Stellar, then the technology that y'all created in the AI vetting system can be put on Stellar Expert. It can be put on the Freighter wallet. You can put it on the Lobster wallet, Lumen Swap, Lightmint. It was actually Lightmint that reposted StellarPad AI. So I like it from that perspective, where the StellarPad and its AI vetting engine will create an incentive. It creates it makes builders more comfortable when they want to go to Stellar to promote their project. I like to see that, and I hope it begins to spread. The second AI application I stumbled upon, and we have a clip here from who looks to be the creator of the application, but we have xbid.ai. It's running on Stellar's test running on Stellar's mainnet. It is a multi-language learning model that, you know what? I had to go to ChatGPT for this one. I ain't even gonna lie to you. Let me pull it on up here because the description on the website, ladies and gentlemen, oh my, Heber Jeebers. It was deep. It was dense. You know, new project. I expect y'all to work that out over time. But for now, I had ChatGPT explain your value prop to me like I was 5. So, simply, XBid AI is kind of robot that learns by doing things for real. It has multiple AI brains that work together. That's the multiple language learning models. Lives on Stellar. And its job is to trade, but not in a risky way. It tries to balance things out, which is the delta neutrality, like keeping both sides of a seesaw steady. To do that, it borrows, hedges, protects against losses, and moves money around so it stays safe. Every time it makes a decision, it remembers what works and what didn't, so it gets better over time. Okay, with that explanation, I was able to put together some notes here, and it now all makes sense to me. So this is going to be an AI-powered automated market maker for Stellar, essentially, where other automated market makers, if I'm not mistaken, are algorithmic based, and they're programmed into the protocol before volume really even hits a network. This market maker will be able to self-correct real time as liquidity comes in. Self-correcting real time as liquidity comes in. Stellar just upgraded to protocol 23, WISC. And I believe it's the parallel transaction processing that allows for the same thing. Tom, respectfully, let me find out y'all incorporated artificial intelligence in the protocol 23 as well. Okay? Because when I was reading the info, they didn't mention AI. I even went as far as to dig into the Stellar docs, which just so happens to feature an AI chatbot named Stella. If you're listening, you can't see me. I'm trying to hold back the laughter. But I asked Stellar's AI agent, are there any other AI applications running on the network? And she said, no, I'm the only one. But here's what I can do. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, I get that. So what this shows us, folks, is the AI era is just starting. And if you incorporate artificial intelligence into what Stellar can already do for payments, RWAs, stablecoins, NFTs, and now games. There's a game being developed on Stellar too. I'll cover that next later on in the week. I can only imagine what AI will be able to do on the Stellar network. So let's play the clip, get a little bit of an understanding of what we are looking at here. I can tell you right away, the multi-LLM backend, OpenAI, Anthropic. So OpenAI and Anthropic, they open source their models, pretty much. This is how all of these companies are able to get chatbots. So this means that someone at Stellar is very good with AI, and they were able to create a Stellar-specific chatbot using either OpenAI, Anthropic, or I don't know, this other one, Llama. Interesting. Let's hop into the clip, guys. I reposted this on my X account as well, and that has a link to the full video.
Let's get started. XBDI is an AI agent. It currently trades on Stellar, and it can do it all. Delta neutral strategies, yield farming, leverage loops, hedging with AMM as well, rebalancing collaterals. There is virtually nothing that it cannot do. And you can check the terminal at xbid.ai to see it in action. It currently test runs on mainnet. So the way I like to describe it, XBDI is an open experiment built on the premise that with real stake and a memory of outcomes, selection pressure shapes behavior. and I invite you to read the blog to understand better this core concept. So the code is open source, available on GitHub as well. But what we are going to talk about today is XBIT AI flexible plugin system for data ingestion. In this first video, we'll walk through the reflector adapter. You'll see how to use reflector oracles on Stellar. So let's get started.
So, little detail I sort of overlooked here: yield loops. I find it so fascinating, and I can close the laptop on this. Last month, one of you hit my email and said, "How come I can't earn yield on my XLM?" Ain't it funny how ever since we had that conversation, all of these little protocols and hints are popping up where maybe in the future we could start staking Stellar XLM. Don't. Don't. I will literally throw a party. But with that, guys, that's it for today's show. Don't forget to head on over to digitalhustlenetwork.net/products. Check out the D150. As a matter of fact, guys, it's not the only digital product that is available for Stellar holders specifically. I did put together a simple guide to the Stellar XLM network. My whole goal, ladies and gentlemen, is to just inform people about this technology, because in the past, it was the core of finance that was changing. Now, it's the technology behind the finance that's changing. We didn't get the memo for when the financial rules got set in place. Let's at least catch this one for when the technical rails are put behind it. We can at least catch that. And through that, you'd be surprised at how much about traditional finance you learn by being in crypto. I tell you, I have learned a life-changing amount. So with that, guys, y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.